Hey guys, and what's going on? Welcome back to episode 2 of the Fourth Quarter Podcast. I hope you all had a great Memorial Day weekend. And today we are starting with the New York Knicks sweeping the Cleveland Cavaliers in 4 games to advance their first trip to the NBA Finals since 1999. A huge win for the Knicks. And obviously right now the Knicks are on just an insane run. I think they've now won 10 games in a row, which is crazy. They've swept the Sixers and they swept the Cavs, coming off four straight wins off 2 sweeps is crazy. But obviously, the Cavs, I just think they were really outmatched this series. The game 1 loss it's a tough defeat, and I think especially the way that game lost, the way the Cavs lost that game, blowing the 20-point lead. I think, unfortunately for them, after that loss, I think that was pretty much the series because the Knicks were still a little bit, maybe sleepwalking through that first kind of half of that game. They hadn't played in a while. I think that was the Cavs' chance in New York to grab game 1, but obviously, they choked that game away, and that kind of, I think, gave the Knicks the kind of kick to, hey, wake up and take care of business as fast as they can, and clearly, in my opinion, after game 3, I think you could tell the Knicks were just by far the better team here in this series, and, a tough matchup for the Cavs, and obviously, for the Cavs, they're going to have some decisions to make this offseason. I do think they will probably re-sign James Harden again. Obviously, they traded Darius Garland. But, LeBron's out there. I'm not sure he's going to go back to Cleveland, but hey, anyway, guys, the Cavs. But Donovan Mitchell had a great game last night, 31 points, but, he really was not able to be much of a distributor. He only had 1 point, 1 assist last night to his guys. I feel like that's half of Donovan Mitchell's game when he can be dealing out to his guys, especially assists to like Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, those guys. I think when he's dishing out assists to them, he's really, really unstoppable, but, he really wasn't much of a distributor this series. He only had 1 assist, like I said last night, but, 31 points. But the real guy who didn't really show up was James Harden. I thought he was very up and down this series. Unfortunately for him, Jalen Brunson was pretty much cooking him the whole series. I had a hard time watching that. I'm a big James Harden guy. But I imagine like 10 years ago, you would have seen James Harden doing that to somebody. But now, obviously, Jalen Brunson was pretty much cooking James Harden. He could not really do anything to stop him. So anyway, yeah, that was just barbecue chicken out there all series. But anyway, yeah, the Knicks are just built. They're built really well. Their team is so. I think they're built really well. But obviously, last night their leading scorer was Cat with 19 points. But then you had obviously Brunson, but Bridges, Deuce McBride, Landry Shamet all had double figures, and especially Landry Shamet. I believe he had four 3-pointers off the bench, which is huge. Obviously a former Wiz legend. Anyway, yeah, the Knicks have a great bench, and they just are going to be a tough matchup for anybody. But obviously, we still have to see who wins. Obviously, the Western Conference Finals is still up for debate. Got the Spurs and the Thunder. Got Game 5 taking place tonight, but, that's been pretty much the complete opposite series of the Eastern Conference Finals. You got 2 teams that really playing physical. 2 teams that are really built very similar, and I think the Spurs and Thunder are built very, very similar well to each other. It's been amazing to see how the Spurs made adjustments between games, The Thunder did take games 2 and 3, but game 4, the Spurs really threw some stuff at Shea. Didn't even double team him necessarily, but they just really played him tough, and he had a hard time getting going game 4. Didn't really have a good game, so, the Spurs won that game at home, and obviously Wembanyama is playing absolutely unbelievable. That half-court shot he hit before the half, oh my gosh, bro. Insane for Wemby. But anyway, guys, so I'm looking forward to the finals. The Knicks look great. They're playing some great ball right now. They have not lost since, back in April in the night of the NFL draft, which is crazy to think about. So, the Knicks are playing great. A little disappointed in the Cavs. I wish it was a bit of a better series. I would have liked to see a little more from James Harden, but, I feel like the Cavs are going to re-sign him, but I'm not sure they do. They're going to maybe target LeBron, but who knows, man. But their season's over, obviously. But now, guys, talking about the Baltimore Orioles, coming off a pretty big weekend, they did have the Detroit Tigers coming to town. They took 2 out of 3 from them, who... Obviously, we needed that. If you remember on Friday, I said, hey, the Tigers are struggling. We're struggling. We got to take at least 2 out of 3 from these guys. And we did. We did so. And Colton Cowser hit a walk-off in the first game of the doubleheader on Saturday, man. What a huge hit for him. I believe it was Sunday, actually. Not Saturday. Sunday. But a huge hit for him. He much needed that. He's probably been struggling the most out of anyone on this team this season. So great for him to see that. Yeah, obviously yesterday, too, they got a huge win in extra innings against the Rays, 9-7 in 13 innings. That was an amazing game. Tampa Bay really blew that game, if you ask me. They made some brutal errors, but you really do not see the Rays make. Like, Trey McClanahan threw that ball away. It allowed, I believe it was Gunnar to go to third. And yeah, they made some more throwing errors, which allowed us to score a couple more runs, which usually you don't see the Rays do that. But, they fought back and they actually, sent it to extras. And I feel like there were multiple chances the Rays had to close out that game. They just couldn't seem to get it done. And the O's kept fighting back. Man, shout out the O's for that win yesterday, man. That's just a game you love to see. Never going to give up, never stop fighting. And every time the Rays would score 2 runs, the O's would score 3 or score 2 to tie it. And then eventually let Colton Cowser get his second walk-off home run in 2 days, which is amazing. He absolutely needed that. 2 moonshots to center field, much needed, especially yesterday after the Rays just swept us last week, to at least get game 1 there. Big win, obviously, Cedric Mullins played his first game at Camden Yards. That was great. But, guys, one thing that's been concerning for the Orioles this season, I did mention last episode 1, that their fundamentals have been kind of off. If you notice, what's up with the base running? Gunnar Henderson gets picked off. He's been picked off, I believe. I can count 4 times off my head he's been picked off this year. And you just can't give teams outs like that, especially good teams like the Rays. You just can't give them free outs like that. That happened twice yesterday, I want to say. Gunnar, and then I forget who else it was yesterday, but just got picked off in no man's land. I'm not sure how that happens, and it happens a lot. And I'm not sure, at that point it's kind of also on the base coaches, but there's some kind of miscue going on there, because how does that keep happening? Again, that's stuff that you see in little leagues that I feel like in the MLB, good teams just don't have that stuff happen, and you got to get that shit figured out. Excuse my language, but they got to get that figured out. But again, great win for the O's yesterday, taking a page out of their own book there, out of the Rays book, I feel like, in kind of, finding a way to get some hits together, and especially Colton Cowser, man, great for him to get those 2 monster home runs for him. And obviously, Blaze Alexander played absolutely well this week, great this weekend, but I think for him especially, he's the ultimate utility guy, glue guy in your locker room that you need. Not only does he seem like a good clubhouse fit personality-wise, but I'm talking, the guy can play second base, third base, shortstop, center field. Absolutely amazing to have on your team, and really a great addition by Mike Elias to trade for him before the season started back in spring training. But also, big win for the O's, but also, we got OTAs for the Ravens starting here this week, and it does seem like Lamar Jackson has been reported that he is at minicamp, which is great. Actually, this is OTAs, obviously not minicamp, but still, I think it is very important, as, we're welcoming in a new era of Ravens football. We got Jesse Minter coming in here. Going to set the tone. New offensive coordinator, new old defensive coordinator, and obviously Anthony Weaver and Jesse Minter, but still, Declan Doyle, I think it's very important for the offense to get here in the building as soon as they can, get familiar with his scheme and get his playbook down, because obviously it's a new scheme, a new system here, guys. And one more thing I do want to say about the Ravens, I do think this is a chance to be a historical draft class. I'm expecting big things out of this draft class. The 2 receivers we got, Jacoby Lane and Elijah Surratt, I expect big things for them. I do think the wide receiver 3 spot is up for grabs. I mean, obviously you got Zay, and I'm a wide receiver 2, I want to say, because, you got Zay, but honestly, Bateman's up there. But besides Bateman, I feel like Devontae Walker, we just kind of have a question mark at receiver. I'd like to see one of those rookies, Jacoby Lane or Elijah Surratt, kind of take that next step. And another guy I'm very excited about, obviously Vega Ione, but guys, Adam Randall, rookie running back out of Clemson, former receiver. I recommend watching his highlight tape this week. Watch it this weekend, man. Former receiver again. The stuff he can do out of the backfield, it's just amazing. I think he's going to be a great addition. I think he'll be a potential number 2 back next to Derrick Henry now, guys. Now, anyway, guys, yes, thanks for watching. Now, tonight, as mentioned before, we do have Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals between the Spurs and the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm very excited for this game. Again, the Eastern Conference Finals has been a bit of a boring series, kind of a blowout. The Knicks by far the better team, but this series has been great. Kind of seen both teams going at it back and forth, throwing jabs at each other. Very physical series. I like the way the Spurs are defending Shea. They're getting him kind of that MJ treatment now, and also the way that the Thunder are defending Wemby with those tough physical elbows. And look at the way, I love the way that Chet, but also Hartenstein in defending SGA, also been defending Wemby. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Huge night tonight, Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals. And the O's got Tampa Bay again. I believe we got Griffin Jack going up against, is it Shane Baz tonight? I might be wrong. I think it's Shane Baz against Griffin Jacks. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Had some huge wins for the O's on Memorial Day weekend. And, congrats to Knicks. I'm sure New York City's a buzz right now. I'm sure they're not going to sleep for the next couple of days. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and go O's. This has been the Fourth Quarter Podcast. Thanks, guys.